Hi, this is Jolynn from One Heart TV, and I'm back with you with my second guest. We were talking in the blog, and I brought about an article called Can You Rewire Your Brain? 5 Scientific Ways to Change Emotional Habits. And I'd like to introduce my second guest. You are
Esperanza.
Esperanza, she's a very good friend of mine. And I wanted to include her in this second question because, or the second tip, I should say, from these 5 ways. Esperanza, tell the folks a little bit about who you are and what you do.
So thank you for inviting me. Again, my name is Esperanza. I work a lot with children and family, so it's pretty common in my job to constantly be going to different workshops that talks about brain development and emotional maybe challenges that the families go through, and you know that includes a whole list when we're talking about adverse childhood or trauma, domestic violence, poverty, all that can affect our brain development, especially when we're exposed to all that as children. But then we also have the opposite, or the positive side of science telling us that indeed we are able to rewire our brain and little by little hopefully change those challenges from negative to positive.
Yeah, you brought up a good point here. What we wire, the second one, to try to remember, you fire together, you wire together. And in this second part, it was interesting because, well, can you explain a little bit what that means for you? What you wire, over and over, I guess. What's going on there?
But I think it's, if we think about it, it's just anything that we do daily that because we learn it, or that's just the environment where we are at. So I think that it really applies to any behavior. So we have, let's say, a child that is being exposed to trauma growing up, and if that child doesn't get any help and they become an adult, then that 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 behavior, it will be so ingrained in the brain that's just the pattern that the brain develop. So then this person might think of themselves maybe all the negative things because maybe that's what they're being exposed to growing up as a child. So in that case, and that's what the brain knows to just kind of repeat over and over again to when it comes to that person's self-esteem, or like judging themselves, or any other negative behavior that they had to develop to cope with trauma or violence or any other negative things that they're being exposed to. Versus then we might have also another case where a child was born and they have, all they have is just an opportunity to build or to maybe program all those positive things, so then that child becomes an adult and it will be a healthy, happy adult because that's what the brain has developed over years. So again, I think that's when we understand how crucial it is to help a child. For me, it's always about that child because that's where we know that that our brain will be developing, and that has an impact over our lifetime.
I know it has in mine, I can honestly say. Um, so much of it is what we're saying to ourselves, is what you're saying, good or bad, good or bad. You, you know, it came to mind because I did a lot of anti-bully work, and there were a lot of children that came running up to me a lot of the times wanting to express their problems, you know, and I heard a lot. Do you find that that's very prevalent, more so with the negative than positive, or equal, or what do you think?
Repetitive negative behaviors. And I think that as parents, if we ourselves were brought up in a situation where we thought that that was normal, to um, be called names, or that our parents or siblings, they will have nicknames for us, or calling us like negative things, and then our parents were like not really intervene to say, hey, like, we don't do that. As children, I think we grow up, and then we become parents. And I think a lot of that, some people, they ended up just kind of recycle what they have learned.
Ooh, that's good. I definitely believe that. That's what I pointed out in my blog, that a lot of the parents come up to me, oh, you're doing great things in the assembly, Jolyn, but what about the adults who are creating mean kids and bullies? And I went, recycling, yes. That's a good word. Just teaching them.
Yes, and what I think that where it really helps, again, when we're talking about fire together,
what we wire, yeah.
Right, so then that's where we can kind of stop ourselves and say, hey, well, probably, or maybe that's how I was brought up, but did I really like that as a child, as a teenager, now as an adult? And I think that when we realize that, that we can make those very small changes, then hopefully we are creating a space where children can grow, and just feel that they're valuable, and that they're they matter. It matters what they think, what they feel, and I think that itself, if we it probably, when we're talking about a habit, and kind of recycle what we learn, and what we know repeatedly, then I think it's pretty difficult to kind of just block that, or restructure our brain, so that we do things differently.
Yeah, they end here, that to change that, and I asked Jennifer for the first question, can you share anything? Because I think deep down, parents are doing the best that they know. But I would like to help our the people who are watching this, to create more happier people. I think generally we want to be happier. We just don't know how. Is there any last thing that you'd like to share about maybe some activities or things in your own life that you've, noticed, and how you could become happier?
Both. That's a great question. I think that I suggest to my parents. I seen work with a lot of children, and I kind of challenge my parents to really build that relationship with their kids. You to really get to know your kids, because it might be kind of a cultural thing, but then I don't want to say that, because that's not always the case. However, what I find is that our parents that are working physically very difficult jobs throughout the day, and then they come home by the end of the day, and they just want to have dinner and go to bed, rest, so that they have the energy for the next day, and a lot of our at least here in the Central Coast, a lot of our families, that's the situation that they live in, because they have to go to work, and we know that that's physical work. They're doing the agricultural work, and it's a lot to handle. They're trying to raise their kids, and they're trying to be good to their kids, but then also, it's a challenge because they don't have that extra energy maybe to play with their little ones. So as we were mentioned, so I think that one thing that I'll recommend the parents to do is just try to create that relationship, build that relationship with your children since they're a baby. So it can be a very simple thing, like for parents that knows how to read or write, because not everyone does that or did learn how to read or write. But for those who do, know, I always tell them, have a notebook for your baby. Make that memory, because as your child grows older, then you want to keep those memories so that that child feels that it's a very special being for the parents. And also by doing that, then you will hopefully kind of pay extra attention to your child and find out what they like, what they don't like, what makes them sad, what makes them happy, what excites them, what are their challenges, and how are you able to help them. And then the other thing that I just wanted to mention, I listen to a lot of other people, just that would help me how to hopefully disseminate more information to the families that I work with. And like, we want to have this safe space, a fair space for everyone to feel comfortable and be happier.
Well, going back just real briefly then, so this wiring, firing, from what I understand about it, it seems that the stories that we tell ourselves over years and years and years and years accumulate and sometimes lead to, they say 80% of our daily thoughts, the same thoughts every day, which doesn't lead to anything new and can definitely not create happiness. Any last thoughts about how to wire something new for yourself? Do you know?
For me, I think it's always such an important state of being, or just being alert. Like the minute your little voices comes back, or that little voice comes back, and then you just might automatically repeat negative things to yourself, then you need to be alert and then stop that immediately. Because I just hear that, and it's so common. Like, people will start just saying really mean things to themselves.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's not gonna help,
Right.
So again, but I think that when we become a bit more alert,
I like that.
and then we know what might help us to feel happier, that we just hopefully we'll be able to create a new habit, and then kind of like minimize the old ones and build on the new ones. So then hopefully we can change that, because
Beautifully said. I like that.
Yes.
Yes. Build on the new ones.
Yes. So many, I mean, each one of us have a different background, and some of us were very lucky to have good parents, and they were kind to us, and they raised us, and and it's probably pretty easy for us to cope and go around life and be happy. Of course, everybody has challenges, But if that wasn't the case, then it's really up to us as adults or as teenagers, adults, to really find that and say, hey, like, well, I deserve to feel happy and feel blessed, and just know that each person deserves that, regardless how sometimes how bad it is when we were a child.
Right, right. And a lot of that can come out in our work. We might be upset with ourselves, and if you've ever felt that maybe that wiring, something tripped your trigger that day, and if you can catch yourself, be alert and catch yourself in that moment. Maybe you can make a different choice, as I always told my kids in the stop, breathe, choose differently. Always a good one. Well, thank you, Esperanza. And again, this is Jill Lynn with One Heart. I would love for you to subscribe if you like this kind of discussion. We're talking about emotional habits and some that we'd like to change. And I'm looking forward to your comments and responses. All right. Peace. Love you all. We're out.
Thank you.
Thank you.